Good evening and welcome to the September 6, 2017 legislative session of the Town Board. I'll officially call it to order. I'll ask everyone to please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Cole. Here. LaFountain.
Here.
Metzler. Here. Moore.
Here.
Quinn.
Here. Okay, we have a busy evening. The first thing I'm going to do this evening, I'm going to grab the first couple of minutes, as we normally do at the start of September in our legislative session, to recognize a couple of members from the Friends of the Penfield Public Library. Tonight we have Gary and Maggie, and they'd like to give us a little update about a big event that's coming up starting, I think, next week, if memory serves me. So, Gary, welcome.
Thank you, Tony, very much. My name's Gary Richardson. I'm the co-chairman of the Friends of the Penfield Public Library used book sale. And it's time again. Our book sale starts next week. The sale dates are Tuesday the 12th. That's for the Friends of the Library, and you can become a friend by paying $5 that night to come in and buy if you want to. We start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, go to 9 o'clock that day. Wednesday the 13th, Thursday the 14th, we start at 10 o'clock in the morning, go to 9 o'clock at night, and that's open to the public. Anybody can come. They don't have to be a member. Friday is our half-price sale. That's the 15th. We start at 10 a.m., go to 6 p.m. on Friday. Saturday is our bargain day. We start at 9 in the morning, go to 2 p.m. And if you bring a bag, or we'll give you a Wegmans paper bag, you can fill it up with anything you want for $3. So that's what we're doing. It's the we've raised our prices a little bit this year on one item, and that is our hardback books have remained $1. Our large paperbacks, they call them trade paperbacks, are now $1 also. Okay. But the regular size mass market paperback that everybody's familiar with are still 50 cents. And we sell LPs and we sell DVDs and CDs, and we even have cassette tapes. And so we're raring to go. As a lot of you are aware, we have a trailer and in the back of the library that you were kind enough to help us with a pad to put it on, and that is full. I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember Fibber McGee on the radio, but this is Fibber McGee's closet, because when we open the back of that thing, I think we're going to stand back because it's full, and we've got boxes all over the sorting room now. So we'll be starting this Saturday unloading the trailer. Excellent. And getting it going. Friday we get our delivery of 110 tables that we rent. We're in 4 rooms at the library, at the Civic Center there, and we put the tables up. And then Saturday we start to move the boxes of books that that people have donated for the past year. We start to move the boxes into the rooms and putting them up on the tables in preparation for the first day, which is Tuesday. We have several book dealers who help us out with the sale, and they estimate that we'll probably have somewhere around 100,000 to 110,000 books at the sale. So it's a pretty big deal. We are pretty sure we're the second biggest used book sale in Western New York. The biggest one is in Ithaca, but we're right on their heels.
Right on their tail.
We're catching up to them. We've had some wonderful donations this year, some really wonderful things that we've never had before. A man passed away in the Brighton area, and his son called and asked us to come and take all of his books out of the home, and it turns out that he had about 10,000 books, which we took out. And the man had been a rabbi, and there's just a wealth of information about Judaism and the Jewish religion and so forth, and about 1/3 of the books are actually printed in Hebrew. Wow. So we're going to have a special section for that this year, for that thing. We've also had some kind of rare books. We have a first U.S. edition of Anne Frank's diary, which we'll be offering for sale this year. And we've got some other things. We've got a set of encyclopedias from 1893, and they're bound in calfskin. They're really beautiful. We're waiting for one of our rare book guys to come in to tell us how much it's worth. We're not sure, and we can't find it anywhere on the internet to find out what the price is. But we've got a bunch of books, so we'd like to invite everybody to come and enjoy themselves. We're one of the last libraries in Monroe County that still takes LP records. A lot of people have said, why the heck do you do that? Well, if you see the collectors that come in after our records elbowing each other out of the way the first day of the sale, it's really a sight to see. And I think because no one else takes them, we get them all from around the county. Yeah. So we've got a really big selection of LP records. We've also got a whole lot of DVDs. I'm sure that Netflix and so forth has kind of contributed to the fact that people no longer want to keep a library of DVDs at home. But we have a tremendous amount of DVDs available, and the CDs have been coming in like crazy too. So we've got a big thing coming. So
we look forward to it as always.
Thank you.
I know all the proceeds go to benefit the library.
They certainly do.
And the library, I know not only the staff but the patrons of the library really appreciate that extra support by way of programming and equipment, things like that really helps set our library head and shoulders above a number of the others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly everything that we make at the sale goes towards the library, with the exception of maybe some tape and some pens.
Yeah.
But everything else, it goes right to the library. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
Excellent.
Can you recap for us last year the profit that came in from the book sale?
Oh boy, you got me. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of 30,000.
It's usually around
I think it was either a little
30,000.
above or a little below that. We hover around that figure. I've been involved in this since 2004. And I don't think we've ever gone below 29,000, and I think we've gone as high as 36,000. But, you know, it varies tremendously. One of the things we're going to do this year that we've never done before is we're going to accept credit cards for people that want to purchase books. We're going to have the square. We've got the little, the square that hooks onto a phone. And we've talked to several other libraries in the Monroe County area, Pittsford in particular, that have had credit cards for 2 or 3 years, and they say they've seen a pretty big jump in the size of the order of how many books people actually take if they know they can charge it instead of having to have the cash for it. So we're looking forward to maybe selling a few more books this year than usual.
Credit card and a pickup truck, you have quite a day.
Yeah, I'll say. Now, at the end of the sale, a lot of people ask this question. At the end of the sale, do we keep any books over to the following year? The answer to that is we will keep a few very special books that maybe we weren't successful in selling, but the vast majority of our books are not carried over. We have a recycling company from Indiana who actually come in and pick up all of the books that are left over from the sale, and also the books that we didn't feel good enough, that they were good enough to put out for the sale. We keep those separately. They send a semi here to Penfield at the end of the sale on Saturday. We say we end at 2. The truck's usually here around 1, and we start to load it. And we've gotten a couple of really good suggestions on how to take care of that now. It used to be kind of a handing thing, where now we're actually putting the leftover books in boxes, putting them on skids, and shrink wrapping them. And we have a forklift driver who comes in and picks them up and shoves them right in the semi, and we're pretty efficient at getting them out. And that recycling company tries to sell the books that they feel they can sell. Otherwise, they assure us that the books are ground up and they're recycled. They're not put in a landfill. So we feel pretty good about that. And also, we're pretty proud of the fact that next year, when you come to the sale, you won't see books that were left over from this year. So we do restock the whole thing.
And if I
Anybody
recall,
have any
and if I
questions?
recall correctly, Gary, that when you do recycle those books, you do get a small stipend from that company.
We do.
As well.
We have a choice of how we get repaid for those books. We've chosen to take we get paid by weight of how much they actually weigh when they go out. And that's a pretty nice thing, depending on, how the sale goes and so forth. We'll probably get somewhere in maybe $1,100, $1,200 check from them. And they pay for, they send the semi that they pay for, and they take it away for us too. So we felt that was the best way to do it. When I first got involved, we were actually renting dumpsters, where we had to pay for the dumpster, and then we dumped all the books in the dumpster, and they went in the landfill, which really wasn't the best thing in the world to be doing. So we feel a lot more comfortable doing it this way.
Excellent.
And we get a little bit back anyway.
Okay. So can a quick summary of when it begins and when it ends?
Okay. Starts Tuesday for the Friends of the Library at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, okay? Wednesday and Thursday, it's open for anybody that wants to come from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Friday is our half-price sale. Everything in the sale is half price. Starts at 10 in the morning, goes till 6 o'clock at night. And then on Saturday is our $3 a bag sale, and that goes from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And if anybody's thinking about coming to the $3 a bag sale, come early, because there's a crowd.
Excellent, excellent. Well, great. Well, good luck. We appreciate, as always, you coming in and talking a little bit about this, and thank you for all the work that you do with the Penfield, Friends of the Penfield Library. It really is a real
It's our
plus.
pleasure. We have a wonderful staff that works pretty hard at it, and I appreciate being able to come over and tell you about it.
Great.
So
Yeah,
thanks a
well-
lot. Hope to see you all at the sale.
Excellent. Thanks. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Maggie. Thank you. All right. The next item that we have this time of the year, we are starting to wind down on preparation of the 2018 budget. And so tonight, we present to the town board the tentative budget. So this is a culmination of a lot of work of our department heads, our finance controller department, and myself. And I'd like to recognize and introduce Barbara Chertow, who is the town controller, and she is going to officially present the tentative budget to the board and to the audience. And Barbara, with that, if you will, please.
Thank you, Supervisor LaFountain. Yes, I'm here this evening to present a summary of the tentative budget for fiscal year 2018. At the public hearing that will be held on October 4th, it will be the preliminary budget, at which I will present the budget in greater detail. As of tomorrow, actually as of now, on penfield.org, there's a copy of this presentation as well as the tentative budget. Hard copies will be available at the town clerk's office tomorrow, as well as at the library. Before I really get into the summary of the budget, I just wanted to remind everyone that although we provide the necessary day-to-day services, as far as the overall property taxes that you pay, only 8% is really allocated towards the town. So, as I said, we provide the day-to-day services that people rely on, and yet we're the smallest piece of the pie. And if you think about it, our monthly costs for all the town services provided are less than most people pay for their internet and cable on a monthly basis. So kind of puts things in perspective when you consider how much you get for your property taxes. So for the tentative budget for fiscal year 2018, our total budget will be $19,139,394. This is an increase of just over $330,000, but just so you know that although there is an increase in the appropriations, the resulting tax levy is well below that allowable by New York State for our levy cap calculation, so we are well below that. Given that we are a service provider to the residents, our payroll and benefits is the largest portion of the budget dollar, followed right behind for contractual services that we get, which is our materials and things of that nature. The three of our major departments that get the majority of the budget The first one being Public Works will get the largest percentage, as they tend to, at just over $8 million. Our Penfield Public Library that we just heard about, they're at $1,884,353, and then our Recreation Department is actually nearing $1 million in appropriations for next year. 7% of the budget is actually allocated to equipment and capital outlay. Equipment is consistent of your heavy equipment, your light-duty equipment, as well as this pays for our road program, our sidewalk program, our sewer pump station replacements. Our town taxable value actually increased by over 2% from 2016 to 2017. As a town of planned progress, we are very consistent in how we develop the town, and this also shows that people invest in their properties here because they want to stay here and raise their families. So we're just over $3 billion now. This is a snapshot, a summary of the tentative general governmental budget, which is the general fund, the highway fund, and the library fund. As you see, that is the total is $16,195,652. The revenues allocated against those appropriations are nearing $7.4 million. There's a fund balance contribution of $290,000 from the general fund and $50,000 from the library fund. The resultant amount collected in taxes would be $8,475,834. The town taxable value, as I mentioned, is $3.1 billion. Therefore, our estimated calculated tax rate will remain at $2.69 again for 2018, as it has been for 16 and 17. Therefore, a home valued at $190,000, an average home, your average tax bill for your general governmental taxes is $511, just as it was in 2017. We do expect an uptick in revenues, which is a positive sign of our improving economy. However, we always budget revenues conservatively, as that is the side of the budget equation over which we have little control. We do anticipate some increase in mortgage taxes and sales tax, which are two of our largest components of revenue sources that are non-tax. That's a 2% increase over the budget what we anticipated for 2017. For our special districts, our anticipated rates for our sanitary sewer operation and maintenance is $41.51 per unit, with the debt service portion at $65.85. That $107 bill is actually about $2 less than it was for 2017. For our drainage district, the special district drainage is anticipated to be $3.88. A typical house is assessed at 10 units, so that makes the bill about $38.80. Our lighting rate is remaining flat. A typical household will pay $11.21 for townwide street lighting. The intensified lighting district, it'll be at $24.59 per parcel for the properties located within the intensified district. The consolidated water district, for 2018, we expect that the average homeowner will pay about 52 cents for water, and the debt for those parcels located within the Thomas Cove Water District, the apportionment towards our water budget, those average homeowner will pay about $275 as we pay down the debt associated with that district. Once again, we'll be collecting the tax levy on behalf of the two ambulance districts. The Penfield Volunteer Ambulance District, they'll anticipated about $4.14 per average homeowner, and with the Northeast Quadrant, slightly less at $2.41 per average homeowner. Again, all money collected on behalf of the ambulance district is passed on to the ambulance districts. Those are not part of the town's operating budget. We only collect the levy on their behalf. This one's a little bit small, but this is the summary of the entire tentative budget. As you see, it's, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's a little over 19 million, with our allocations are about 7.4 million in revenue, with fund balance contribution, and then our resultant tax levy. Again, this is a snapshot of our overall tentative budget, and once we get to the preliminary budget on the 4th of October, we will have a public hearing and get into a little more detail.
Great. Thank you, Barbara. So again, we present, Barbara and myself present this to the board and to our residents. This tentative budget will ultimately become our preliminary budget. There will be a public hearing on October 4th on the budget, and again, the detail will be up on our website, or is up on our website at this point. So the presentation that Barbara provided, as well as more detail, is on the website, so I would encourage anyone to take a look at that, and then encourage any and all folks to come to the October 4th public hearing, where, again, Barbara, you will hear some of the same things tonight, but she'll go into a little bit more detail as it relates to the 2018 budget. So, Barbara, thank you. We appreciate the presentation, and again, encourage anyone to go to the website, or if you want to feel it, touch it, you can come into the town hall or to the library and see a hard copy of that. So, thank you. All right, as I had indicated, we have a busy night. We will move into our public hearings. We have 2 public hearings, and then we have a public information meeting. And we'll start with our first public hearing. I'll ask our town clerk if she would please read the legal.
Okay. To consider permitting a storage shed with less buffer to a residential property than permitted at 2074 5 Mile Line Road, located in the Four Corners zoning district. The legal notice was published in the Penfield Post on August 17th, 2017, posted on the town's website and the town's bulletin, town clerk's bulletin board. 40 postcards were mailed.
Thank you very much. Mr. Horowitz, is this properly before the board?
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much. We do have a packet of material that was provided. Mr. Costello has provided the board members with all of that. We would ask that, for the record, you would just give us an overview of what you're planning to do, the reason for what you're asking for, and any other details that you believe is appropriate. So welcome.
Okay, thank you. My name is Wayne Richardson, and I'm here on behalf of Charles Finney School. We need to put in a storage shed exterior of the building. There's virtually no storage inside the building at all. There's a closet here or there, but other than that, it's just non-existent. We've had to make use of dumpsters, just getting rid of extra desks and whatever. Then when we expand, we have to buy new desks. It's really a nightmare. Now we have, someone has donated a golf cart to the athletic department. We're storing that inside the maintenance area. We have pallets of salt that we use through the winter. That's all stored inside. We need to move everything, the non-essentials, move them outside. So that's what we're looking for. The issue that we've run into is that there's a code requirement that it has to be 50 feet from the property line. Our building is 58 feet, so we don't have that much room. We're gonna come away from the building by 20 feet, which is gonna leave us, quite short from the code. But there's a row of buffers, trees between our property and the neighbors. We've never had an issue with interference with neighbors or any complaints or anything. And I'd really like to get this done, if we can see a way to do it.
Okay.
Jim has been over to the property and looked it over, and I think he can confirm that the neighbor probably won't even know that it's even there.
So just by way of a little bit of history, normally what would happen is that when you need a variance for a setback, normally you would come into the Zoning Board of Appeals. Because this is part of the Four Corners District, this board has jurisdiction over that, so hence why this application is coming before this board. So by way of just a little bit of information and history for those in the audience. So Wayne, could you describe what the building is going to look like, the size, square footage of the building, and the materials that will be on the outside that the neighbor might be looking at?
It's wood construction. It'll sit on the ground on 4x4s. 12 feet by 20 feet, 20 feet coming away from the building, pitched roof, shingled roof, T11 siding, double doors for the one section where the salt is going to be stored. Around the corner, there will be another wide door for the golf cart we can drive in, and then there will be one more door giving us access for storage, without having to go through those two. So it's going to look a lot like a house without windows. It's going to be attractive, nothing, it'll be white, and as I say, wood construction. The wall next to the building will be double 5/8 fire stop, according to code, and shingled roof, as I say, so.
Where on the property are you looking to place this?
It'll be on the north side of the building. There's a driveway, service driveway that goes back, and it's toward the back of the building, not quite to the end of the driveway, but just about.
During my one uneventful season running cross-country, I remember that there's a staircase
Yes.
over there where the high school kids would sort of run around and up the staircase. So is this shed going to come out to a point where it's blocking any sidewalk or staircase or cause a problem for anyone accessing that?
No.
Okay.
No, it won't. It doesn't come out that far. In fact, there was a pitched concrete, well, I don't want to call it a walkway, but I guess it was, where there was a door, you probably remember that. There was a door on the side of the building, and two concrete brick walls that came out, and then a concrete slope, and then off to the north of that was the stairway you're talking about.
Right.
It'll come up just about to the end of that concrete wall.
Okay.
Between the building and there, so it won't interfere with any traffic whatsoever.
So Wayne, one of the questions that you always ask when you're looking at granting variances is that what other locations or alternatives did you explore that did not require a variance on the site?
There really aren't any other, I mean, we went through and looked at the parking lot in the back, and there's really no place to put one, and still, we've got to be 50 feet away from the property line, which would put us in the middle of the parking lot or in the middle of the activity field, and really, this is the only place that's suitable and is going to stay out of the way. Any place else, it's going to get into a traffic area or some kind of an inconvenience. Where this is, I don't think anybody will even know it's there unless you drive down the driveway.
And you'd indicated that it was going to be white in color. If there was any concerns, would you be amenable to paint it some other color?
Sure.
Dark brown, whatever type of thing.
Sure. Yeah, in fact, we could even leave it the natural wood if that would be preferable.
Okay,
Save us from painting it.
all right. Board, other questions for the applicant at this point? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on this matter? And again, this is for a storage shed with less buffer at 2074 5 Mile Line Road. I would recognize Mr. Costello from our staff. I'd ask Mr. Costello, is there anything that should be added into the record that has not been added into the record this evening that you believe is pertinent to this particular application?
Jim Costello, Town of Penfield. Mr. Supervisor, the only thing that he neglected to mention is the fact that he has met with the fire marshal. Fire marshal has inspected the site for its placement and will meet state code requirements. I think the building has to be moved 5 feet away from the building itself. The proposed shed's going to be moved 5 feet away from the building or adjacent to it?
I don't remember hearing that.
Okay, so it will be adjacent to it, and that's the reason why you're putting in the 2-hour fire rating on
Right.
the interior of the building?
For
Okay.
fire code
Yep,
purposes.
that's right.
Jim, does this have to go before the Historic Preservation Board?
No, actually, we looked at that. This portion of the property is outside of the district. It's beyond the 200-foot requirement. I probably will show them that at the next meeting on the 7th, but,
As a courtesy.
yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, Board, one last opportunity for any additional questions for the applicant?
No.
And Wayne, I would ask you any additional input that you would like to provide the Board on this particular application?
I think that about covers it.
Okay, so let's talk very briefly next steps, and this will hold true to the next public hearing as well as the public information meeting. The next steps are that the next opportunity this board would discuss this matter would be in the work session. That would be next Wednesday, the 13th. We do that at 7 o'clock here in this room. Those meetings are televised. You're welcome to come as well. It'll give the board an opportunity to discuss amongst themselves and with staff. And that will, we publish our agendas in the afternoon on Friday, so you can just verify that that's on the agenda or stay in contact with Mr. Costello. He can keep you posted on that. And again, if, that would be the next opportunity the board would discuss this matter.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
you.
Move on to our next public hearing, please.
To consider permitting live music in the outdoor dining area of Jeremiah's Tavern at 2164 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road. The legal notice was published in the Penfield Post on August 17th, 2017, posted on the town's website and the town clerk's bulletin board. 42 postcards were mailed.
Thank you. Mr. Horowitz, is this properly before the board? Yes, it is. All right, thank you very much. As indicated on our previous application, we did receive all the material that was submitted on behalf of Jeremiah's. Mr. Costello provided the board with all that material, but certainly the purpose of the public hearing is to give an overview of what is being planned. There are a number of neighbors that are here that certainly have followed this application and others in that area from the start to opening, and continue to be vigilant about what's going on in that area. So with that, welcome, and we'd ask you to give an overview of what you have planned.
Well, thank you. My name is Christy Swanson. I work at the corporate office for Jeremiah's Tavern. And what we're looking to do is to provide acoustical music on the patio of Jeremiah's Tavern. We've been open since August 2014. We didn't have any music on the patio prior to 2016. Upon inquiry here at the town to see if we could have music, we were encouraged to get the temporary permit process, which we did for a couple of events in 2016. Well, not events, musical acts, as well as a couple in 2017. What we're doing is we're providing atmospheric music to our customers. So we're not having big bands, multiple members or whatnot. It's just simply, an atmosphere for them to enjoy the outdoor patio. We currently are under parameters under the temporary permit that only allows us to have music between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. We would like to extend that from the hours of 11 a.m. to midnight, only for the purposes of if we have a special event such as a party rental, a wedding event, something that our customer is having catered and a large group come in and they would like to have music on that patio. We would also like to do it occasionally on the patio just as an additional atmospheric, addition to our visit. We currently cannot have any amplification under the temporary permit. We would like to seek light amplification only because the size of our patio, placing the music on one end of the patio, just enough to carry the sound of the music to the other end of the patio. Of course, we will be sure that that does not extend beyond the patio limits, or beyond our property limits, excuse me. And we would like to have that on a permanent basis. Currently, we have to seek the temporary permit application to do that. And those are limited in the quantity we can have each year. The property, the way it's laid out, is the patio is recessed down. It is buffered by Route 250 on one side, and then the driveway coming into the commercial business area that we're a part of, and then the building. The building is between the patio and the residential neighbor area. So I do believe that the music will be buffered by the building itself. We're not talking about a loud volume of music, just simply ambience. We have had a few musical acts thus far, and to my knowledge, we have had no complaints. I've not heard anything from the town. There are some other things that have come up recently. Just the other day, we had a matter come in that the garbage truck was coming in too early. So to me, it sounds as if the neighbors are reporting anything like that. We have not heard of anything about the musical acts. We have had a few of them. So we would like to continue on with that and ask for a permanent. And that's essentially what we're seeking.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, no?
Well, I was just going to ask for clarification. The temporary permit
Yep.
that you have now, that's 4 PM to 7 PM? Is that all days of the week?
No,
Did I miss that?
it's issued, I'm not totally sure, but it's issued just on a weekly basis, and you can only have like 3 or 4 of them throughout
Okay.
the year. So when we have a musical act, we're allowed to do it for a full week. Typically, we're only having it for one evening. So we're
Okay.
using a whole week temporary permit just for one day.
And I'm assuming the one evening is usually a Friday or a Saturday?
Typically, yes. What we're seeking is to be able to have it so that we can, the party room rentals and the special events that we do for our customers, to be able to do it then, which would fall outside of those normal hours of the Friday and Saturdays.
I'm confused when you said the building is between the patio and the residential area.
Okay?
Isn't the patio to the north of the building?
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't know my directions that well. I
Okay.
apologize.
If I'm on Route 250 and I'm
Yep.
looking at Jeremiah's, isn't the patio to the left?
It is.
Then where is the residential area?
Isn't it to the right?
No.
There's no residential on the right?
There is some residential
And then
to the
behind
right
Doodlebugs as
or to the
well.
south, and then to the east, so that all the residents that fall in the area behind Doodlebugs and through that area. So
Yeah.
you have residential through that area.
The affected residents are not to the right.
But they're behind Doodlebugs.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
So you had mentioned light amplification. What is the definition of light?
Just enough to carry it from one end of the patio to the other, above the conversations that the customers are having on the patio.
How many decibels would that be?
That I do not know.
Right, and I guess, another, just from a logistics standpoint, is that 1 amp, 2 amps, is it on a stand, 6 foot high?
It
I'm
would
just
not
trying
be.
to,
It would not be on a stand. It would be on the ground.
on the ground.
Yep.
Where on the patio do you anticipate having the amp, and in what direction do you see it pointing?
It would be closest to 250. It'd be at the corner of the building there, facing back towards, between Doodlebugs and the newer build. We have a bar on that area, so it would be facing towards the bar diagonally.
Any consideration for having it sort of at the bar facing towards 250? I mean, I'm just
would
trying to
see no
think of,
problem
the
with that.
patio is decent size. I'm just trying to think of the direction in which the sound is projecting. I know we've had discussions previously about some additional buffers on the eastern wall of the patio, whether you put in 6-foot arborvitaes or any kind of other shrubbery, or if you put a plexiglass or a glass topper on top of the stone wall, whatever it may be, to sort of deafen some of that sound as well. Any considerations there as far as additional buffers to any amplified music?
Well, that hasn't been considered at this time, but if the amplified music becomes an issue, that is certainly something we would look into.
Well, my concern, and I'm sure what we'll hear here shortly, is that 4 to 7 a few times during the year is one thing. Extending permanent sound to midnight any nights of the week is a completely different thing, especially for any kind of residents that are living within that neighborhood. So I'm not sure going from the 2 or 3 temporary, times that you can have it now to a full, 7 days a week, 11 a.m. to midnight is really the next logical step here. Maybe there's a middle ground in here, but I just, like I said, I mean, maybe some additional buffers for consideration, the location on the patio of where the actual amp is. Those are just first thoughts that I had, and I'm not sure if my colleagues have any others.
Well, we'd be willing to consider all of that, even if we do it on a graduated basis to prove that we can do this successfully without a negative impact to the neighbors. We're okay with that. We're looking just to add additional features to our customers, again, as an ambience. We're not in an environment where, we have big parties out on that patio and, big
Right.
bands and things like that. We're playing, usually one person in the musical act is typically what it is. Sometimes 2, you do get acoustical that are more than that, so I'm trying not to limit what we
Right.
can do, but that's typically what we're doing. So if we need to explore the options to graduate to something to prove along the way that we can do this successfully, we're all for it.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate your openness to that. You kind of just reminded me there, one other thing. So if you were to have sort of a wedding party or some other event, the musical act that they would contract with or have on patio, again, no DJs, no loud
No.
amps, it would still fall under any kind of arrangement that is,
Yes.
Okay.
Acoustical
Yep.
with light amplification, simply just to make sure the customers are hearing it from one end to the other.
okay. I don't have any other questions at the moment.
Yeah, I would agree with what Councilman Quinn has said, that I see your request here is kind of threefold in that currently you're looking at, have 4 to 7 p.m. acoustical music on a permit-only basis. Looking to expand from 4 to 7 to 11 a.m. to midnight on a permanent basis, adding amplification and adding an unlimited number of times. So you could potentially book it for 7 days a week.
That is not our intention. The reason for the expansion is simply to accommodate requests from customers for party room rentals, for different events that they come in and we have catered. So that's really, my reason for the expanded time frame.
I think it's hard, though, to predict then, and it would be hard for a resident or for the town, from an enforcement standpoint, to predict how often you're going to do it if it's so open-ended.
Okay.
Okay. Board, other questions or comments at this point? Okay, next, why don't you stay close? We'll open it up to the public at this point, and I'll ask our clerk to please read the names if they would. Chrissy, if you'd like to maybe just have the seat right there, and then we'll give folks an opportunity to speak. We'll give you another opportunity to address any comments.
Okay, our first speaker is Sam Spinelli.
Welcome, Sam.
My wife and I built our home on Bronston Drive below Doodlebugs.
So Sam, if you would, if just for the record,
Yeah.
if you just give us your address, that would be
Yeah, I'm
great.
Sam Spinelli. I reside at 51 Bronston Drive.
Thank you, sir.
We've been there 32 years, and things change. 32 years ago there was nothing up there, and you can't turn the clock back. It's zoned commercials. We understand that, So I know it helps the tax base in the town and all that, but we've been through a couple of experiences that have been unpleasant. One was a permit being issued to Eagle Vale for amplified music, and we had a horrible summer that year. I mean, I don't know how many times we called the police. I mean, I'm a light sleeper. You like to sleep with your windows open in the summertime. It was just awful, and evidently Is that in your jurisdiction?
It is not.
That's Fairport, probably.
That's in Perrington.
Yeah, parents, and so evidently they rescinded the permit after, numerous complaints, but it affected us.
Sure.
And of course, we have doodlebugs up there now. We can hear the kids playing. I love music, don't get me wrong, and I love kids, but we can hear the kids playing and screaming up there all day long, even with the traffic during the day. So the sound carries down there. It definitely carries. So the idea of having even lightly amplified music playing at midnight, it doesn't sit well with me. And there's several of my neighbors are here, and I think they probably would agree. I don't know if the sound travels down. I don't understand acoustics, but you can hear conversation in the parking lot of Jeremiah's when people are leaving at the end of the evening. So, that's just voices. That's not music. That's not amplified music. Would you agree? My neighbors, my wife and my neighbor, next door neighbor, are over there. So the reason we came this evening was to see just what Jeremiah's had in mind. I understand they have a business. They want to offer extended services to your customers. We're a customer. We're in there all the time. We love it. But they're pretty busy even without the music, I will say that. I haven't been in there when it hasn't been busy, so I think you're doing quite well without the music. The idea of the music is to keep people drinking. I think that's, it's around the bar area. They want to keep people there and keep people drinking. It's, the bar tabs are where a lot of the profit from restaurants come from. I understand all of that stuff, and I'm fine with it. I'm not against any of those things. I'm just against having to listen to that until midnight when I'm trying to sleep. So that's it.
Thank you, Sam. Sam, if I may ask, during 2016, 2017, when they've had their special permits for music, do you recall hearing anything
Not really.
during those times?
No, not at all, no.
Okay.
But it was up until 7 o'clock, so, right?
Yeah,
Between 4 and 7.
4 and 7.
So you're not really paying much attention. If you're laying in bed with the windows open and you're trying to sleep, that's a different matter entirely, So I'm a light sleeper. The slightest thing wakes me up. I hear the trains in Fairport, and the music that they had at Eagle Vale was just horrendous. It was just awful for one whole summer until they finally pulled the plug on their permits. So that's all. We came just to hear what what they had in mind, and I object to music playing even lightly amplified or otherwise until midnight.
Got it. Well, the purpose of the public hearing certainly is to give everyone an opportunity to share their thoughts and input feedback. So appreciate you coming this evening,
not at
and
all.
As well as all of your neighbors.
Well, thanks for allowing me to say.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time, Sam. Thank you.
Dan Mooney.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, guys. My name is Dan Mooney. I live at 53 Bronson Drive on the cul-de-sac. And I've been to Jeremiah many, many times. I love the food, the atmosphere, you name it, and the drinks too. But my question is that, as Sam says, we hear doodlebugs, which doesn't bother me. I got 7 grandchildren, you name it. But what is the Penfield law on sound? Meaning, how far from Jeremiah can they project their music during till 4 to 7 or 4 to 12 o'clock at night? Now, do you know?
One of the things that the whole issue of noise, ends up being, somewhat subjective, as you can imagine. Some tolerate more than others. From businesses, and when you get into things like music and what have you,
Right.
it's to be contained on your property.
Correct.
And that's what our ordinance calls for, is to be
Correct.
contained
And that's
within
what I read.
within your property lines.
Their property lines.
Yep, that is correct.
And that they also can extend 50 feet past that on that 4 to 12 o'clock or 4 to 7 o'clock time period also. My son's an attorney, okay?
Yep.
He looked it up for me.
Okay.
So basically is that they can go 50 feet past the parking lot towards doodlebugs and down the cul-de-sac where I live. So I do not want the noise that I'm sitting now on my deck, having a drink with my wife and listening to a lot of noise. And I don't know how the town can control that noise or whatever. The only way that we can control it is that we hear it, we call the Monroe County Sheriff.
Sure.
And, then everybody gets, an uproar about everything. So I would hope that consideration is that how far is the town going to allow the music to, and you say it's going to be buffered, I understand that, okay? Donald Trump's our president, I understand that too. But I just feel uncomfortable with a lot of we'll consider it, we'll go as we feel we need to go with buffer, arborvitae's, whatever. We have to have something concrete, okay? And that's the way I feel. And I just don't want to say, well, let's try the arborvitae's first. If that doesn't work, we'll put up another hedgerow or something like that, okay? So that's all I have to say is I hope you can control the sound.
Dan, if I may ask, same question that I asked Sam.
No.
Have you heard any music? So I'm
No.
just curious about that.
No.
And then you did indicate that, at the close of business, that you hear voices in the parking lot. So I'm guessing somewhere between 10, 11, 12 o'clock, depending upon the day of the week
See, my
and when they
bedroom doesn't
close.
face that way. I face north where Sam faces west.
Okay, got it.
So that's probably why Sam hears them more than I do,
Okay,
okay?
okay, great.
That's all I have to say.
Thanks for the input, and thanks for taking the time to come in.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you.
Mike Young.
Welcome, Mike.
Hi. Mike Young, 46 Bronson Drive. You guys have seen me here before for all of these, so I'm sure you're expecting me to
I think the
come.
only thing that's changed is the last time we saw you, you're with a new child now?
Two.
Great, congratulations.
Thank you. So, I followed all this stuff. Jeremiah's has actually, I can't say too many bad things about it. A couple hiccups in the beginning. I have not heard much of anything from over there. But I have followed this. I watched the work sessions on this, and the proposal tonight sounds a lot different than what they had said back then. It was more of like, it's just going to be the acoustic music till maybe like 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night instead of 7 o'clock. And I was like, oh, maybe I won't go this time. But I told my wife I'm going to come just in case it's different, and it is. I'm not for amplified music over there. That's not what I want, and I don't want it later at night. I have kids. They sleep with their windows are open right now. They're sleeping probably right now too. So I'm really not for that. The location where you said the speakers are going to be is essentially pointing directly right where my house is. It's between those two, the doodle bugs and the other building. So if anything, the speakers should not be pointed that direction. They should be pointed toward 250 or away from the homes over there. But in general, I'm really not for any amplification. I haven't heard the acoustic music. I don't know what days they were doing it. I wasn't aware of when they were. So maybe I wasn't home. I don't know. But even so, I'm fine with that. If I haven't heard it, and that I'm fine with that. If you want to do it acoustic till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, maybe that's fine with me. And I'm not sure about the whole idea of having weddings and large parties out there either, because I don't see how you're going to have a small acoustic band for a wedding. I don't think I've ever been to a wedding with a small acoustic band. But I'm open to different options, but probably not the amplified music till later at night. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Mike. Good to see you. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that didn't sign up that would like to address the board on this matter? And this, again, is Jeremiah's on Route 250 to extend their hours for music on their patio. Okay, I'll ask the board, any additional questions for the applicant at this time?
No.
And then I'd ask the applicant any additional comments or input that you would like to provide the board, before you leave this evening. Okay, great, thank you.
First, I'd like to clarify that the weddings I understand that concern. We don't have full-out wedding reception requests. It's typically rehearsal dinners, bridal, bridal shows, forgive me. Those sorts of things are what we're having. So it's not that we're going to have any more people out there than we likely would on a busy evening. Additionally, I would like to point out that I've worked for the owner of Jeremiah's for close to 15 years. I myself am not going anywhere. I'm available to everyone. I understand you guys are residents. We want you to be happy as well. We want to be a good neighbor to you. I can give you my phone number. I can be available to you if something
Christine,
happens.
excuse me, please talk into the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I can provide my phone number to people that we can discuss options. Honestly, forgive me, I never thought about the direction of the speaker being an issue that way. We do have like an awning and stuff, so, what I had been thinking is that would buffer, with the awning, the speaker being down in that corner, so it wouldn't carry up and over. But I am totally willing to work with everybody to figure out parameters that we can make this happen successfully under and not negatively impact you guys. So I'm here, I'm a person, I'm responsible, I'm responsive, and I would make myself available to you guys to work this out.
Okay, great, thank you. And then I'll ask Mr. Costello, Jim, is there anything additional that should be added to the record that hasn't been put on the record either by the applicant, the board, or the neighbors on this particular matter? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Again, the same as I indicated on the first application, the next opportunity the board will have to discuss this matter will be next Wednesday. Certainly stay in contact with Mr. Costello, keep an eye on the agenda, and everyone is welcome to come and listen in. Certainly that's an opportunity for the board to have discussion amongst themselves and with staff. That's not we're not going to hold another public hearing or anything like that, but you do have the ability to come and listen to the discussion the board has.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, we have an informal neighborhood discussion regarding the possible development of 2 apartment buildings totaling 36 units at 1211 Empire Boulevard. The legal notice was published in the Penfield Post on August 17, 2017, posted on the town website and town clerk bulletin board. 8 postcards were mailed.
Great, thank you. And as the applicant is getting ready with their paperwork and what have you, I'll just remind everyone, this is a public information meeting. So the subtle difference between a public hearing and an information meeting is that from time to time, this board, when we have some applications that have either been under conversation or may have some concerns or issues, I hate to have an applicant spend a lot of money every time an engineer puts pen to paper or an attorney picks up a phone, the meter runs, so to speak. And so public information meetings is an opportunity to come in with maybe not such detailed plans, but gives the applicant an opportunity to talk a little bit about what they've got planned, and then gives the audience an opportunity to ask any questions, get a sense of what's going on and what have you. And then obviously if this board were to look favorable, then we would have a full-blown public hearing. So that is just the subtle difference. So with that, we'll ask the applicant to introduce themselves. Dr. Howitt, we do know as the property owner, but again, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Matt Newcomb, and I'm with Pastoral Associates. We are the civil engineer on this project. Obviously, you've already introduced Jack, who's the developer. I'll start out by thanking the board for hearing us tonight. As Mr. Supervisor previously stated, we are here just kind of formally introducing the project, get any initial feedback, any concerns or anything that we can kind of address before we make a formal application. This project, I'm certain you folks have seen it before. Well, this board has seen it, maybe not particularly this board. I'll start out by kind of orienting you to where the project is located. The project is located on the south side of Empire Boulevard, on the western side of the entrance drive. It's called Wilbur Tract Way. On the west side is a former antique shop that is now being converted into a brewery. On the east side is Agway. So as you can see here, the overall project includes 2 apartment buildings, as well as an additional 33 townhome units that are further back on the property. The overall property size is about 35 acres. So we're looking at 35 acres of total development. As far as there's no wetlands on the apartment portion of the project. There are some that show up on the townhome portion of the project, but that, however, they will not be impacted as part of any development. The reason why we're here is, as Mr. Supervisor had stated previously, that we are under a special district that is under town board jurisdiction. That would be the LaSalle Landing District. Half of the property lands in the LaSalle Landing District. The other half of the property lands in a residential district, of which, given the fact that we are within the required zoning requirements for that district, we would really only see the town or the planning board for that project. A little history. Initially, we came in several years ago with the proposal for these apartment units, and the developer chose to kind of focus back on the townhomes instead. So we did make an application to the planning board. We have been to a couple of meetings, and it's kind of on hold at this point. As a result of, after getting into it a little bit further, we recognize that the public infrastructure to go from Empire Boulevard to the start of the townhomes is pretty significant. Because this project does propose a public right-of-way with public utilities, public sewer, there's quite a bit of money there just to get to the particular project. So part of the funding source for this, for the public utilities, would be these 2 apartment buildings that we're looking at starting off with. This Wilbur Tract Way will eventually be an emergency access point for the Woodhaven and Old Westfall Drive neighborhoods. When we were kind of going through the planning with the planning department, the planning board, they had requested having a secondary access to those neighborhoods in case of an emergency and one of the main access were to be shut down. So this would have been, or this was proposed to be basically a gated access, so it would be only for emergency vehicles if there is an emergency there. So that's part of the overall general description of the project. So what we're looking to start out with is 2 buildings. One of them would be a 21-unit apartment building. The other would be a 15-unit apartment building. Both are 3 stories, and where all of the apartments would be facing towards the Lake Ontario Bay, with a main corridor that would be behind all the apartments that would connect them and lead you out to the common areas. As you can see here, this is our site plan. It really kind of shows what the intent is. And then we did do a view from the lake, which is kind of to give you an idea as to what the impact would look like. We did go through our 3D modeling software to kind of show this so it was a little bit more realistic to see that the visual impact isn't really all that great. One of the other things that we had some concerns with when we were doing our, for the planning board, was any obstruction of view of the folks on Old Westfall Drive. So that was another thing that we looked at. And I do show you this as well. And I do have a view from the approximate location of Old Westfall Drive looking out over Lake Ontario, obviously before fall, showing that there really is no impact by having the apartment buildings down here either. So then, next to this is a little bit more of a better description as to what the intent is from an architectural perspective. Again, we're still, keep in mind, we're still very much in the planning stages of this project, so that this is not anything that's in concrete yet. It kind of shows the unit layout, how everybody will have a patio that faces the lake. The building will definitely complement the area. It'll look nice, and it won't be overly visible or impactful to the neighborhood. So with that said, I'll open it up to any questions the boards might have. And
Sure. Board, any initial questions for Matt at this time?
Matt, real quick, one of the visuals or renderings that you have, actually it's the one right behind you.
sure.
So this perspective, as it says down before, just want to make sure I'm clear, if I was standing on Westfall Drive, or would this be, on the second floor of a home on Westfall Drive?
It's a little bit of a skewed perspective. It'd be more of a second floor view on a Westfall Drive out of the back. It's a little skewed because of the way we're able to take the 3D model picture. But, I mean, if you were at ground level, obviously you're going to see more trees than anything. But it's really just kind of to demonstrate the fact that this is high enough where you're not even really going to see the roof of the buildings that we're proposing.
Okay.
There is a significant amount of grade change out there, and we have the topography that we can provide to the board if they want to see it, but there is a very, very significant amount of grade change.
And you're looking at 36 total units?
Correct.
Between the two buildings?
Yep.
Have you, or has the applicant, I certainly understand, we're in the beginning stages, or you're in the beginning
Sure.
stages of this proposal. Are you looking at price points, one bedroom, two bedroom, things like that?
As I understand, there are going to be a mixture of 1 and 2 bedroom apartment buildings. Price point, I'm guessing, is about $1.25 a square foot, anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 square feet. That's just kind of a rough number offhand. So I'm guessing there'll be market rate apartments. They'll be competitive with whatever is out there in the local, specifically in this area even. We did, as you know, we did do the South Point project, and they have a waiting list for their apartments. They are booked before the buildings are even finished. So we know the demand is there, and they're at a pretty significant price point. I think they're around $1,200 to $1,500 for a 1 and 2 bedroom apartment. So our goal would be probably to be in the same range as that.
Matt, could you talk a little bit about, both buildings are 3 stories. So can you, is there units on each one of the 3, or is there multiple floors in some of these units?
Yeah, sure. They're all 1-story units, so there is not it's not a townhouse look or a townhome look where you have a basement. So they'll all be 1-story, 1-floor units, as it is now. Again, like I said, we're in a planning stage now. One thing that I did forget to mention, and I'll show this view, is also included with the public infrastructure that we are planning is a sidewalk, not only that will come up to the townhomes, but it'll also come down through Wilbur Tract Way, which will help complement the brewery that's going in as well, and allow access. I mean, we have a marina that's down the road. There's some good amenities in the area to really help support this type of a development here.
Are you anticipating that No, I'm sorry, I just found it right here. I'm good,
Okay.
thanks.
You know, when you have the planning board part of it.
Sure.
Up there now, you don't have a view of it looking down from Woodhaven. Is it because those proposed buildings would sort of block the 3 stories down below?
Well, the way it sits is this is pretty level down through here, and then it starts to go way up. So if you were to buy this particular unit, you're going to be looking out over the top of these 3-story buildings. And then the same goes if you buy the townhouse unit behind it. They're stepped into the hill, essentially, so you're going to see over the top of these townhome units. Part of the reason why we didn't really emphasize this particular portion of the project is because, we're here to look at this. But I understand exactly
I'm thinking
what,
about the residents up on Woodhaven above all the,
up and in this area. Yeah, again, we don't have, I don't have something that shows that, but I can assure you that any view that these folks have, any view that, I believe it's old Westfall Drive, because our road, our extension that goes from here, the emergency access is at almost 10%, which is pretty significant, and it's a distance. So again, if you're standing on your back porch in Old Westfall up here, you may not even, if you look down, you may see the rooftops, but if you look straight out, your view will not be impacted
and this
whatsoever.
is what it would be like at the emergency access? That's where I'm
Correct,
talking.
yes,
That's
yeah.
not Westfall, that's Woodhaven.
I thought it was Old Westfall Road.
No, Old Westfall comes off in Woodhaven.
Oh, this is Old Westfall, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Woodhaven,
Yep.
you're correct, I'm sorry. I apologize. So yes, correct, Woodhaven. Westfall Road, this is even more significantly higher than Woodhaven would be.
Okay.
Presently, Wilbur Track Way is a private road,
Correct.
and the proposal that's before the planning board and for these apartments is to have this as a town-dedicated road?
Correct. This portion, so Wilbur Track Way actually continues. I'm not 100% sure that this portion is owned by the folks that are down there. I believe Jack has ownership of the portion that's on his property, but Wilbur Track Way does continue all the way down. The idea would be, and I think when we were working on this phase of the project, was to improve that access down to the homes back on Wilbur Track Way, but the dedicated roadway would actually be this portion of it here. So at some point, it changes away from Wilbur Track Way. It would probably be about right here, is where, so Wilbur Track Way goes just like this. This would be all new. It's not a part of Wilbur Track Way, if that makes sense.
Are these properties to be a part of a proposed homeowners association of any sort? Whether it's the apartments and the townhomes, just the townhomes?
Sure. So typically with the apartments, there's different ways you can do it. The apartments would probably be part of a private ownership type, where the owner would hire a maintenance guy who would maintain the property. As far as the townhomes go, those would be separated off, and they're likely part of a homeowners association that would handle any land that is not public or not owned by the particular townhouse. So usually how we do this, and I'm going to draw right on here, is if this is a townhouse that's owned, this is their property. So, and your right-of-way would come up through here. So this shared driveway would be part of a homeowners association for maintenance and replacement and repair, et cetera, et cetera. But the actual property itself would be owned by the homeowner, and then the roadway would be dedicated to the town, as well as any public utilities that are included with that sewer.
So I guess that's my next question. Is there any consideration, has there been any consideration of not having this as a dedicated roadway? Having it as a private drive, maintaining it as a private drive?
I believe it was something the town wanted as a dedicated roadway because they wanted to have emergency access to the neighborhood up here. So I think that was discussed, was it, Jack?
That was discussed, and it was
Dr. Howitt, if you would, thank you. Just grab that mic, pull that down if you would, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was discussed, and it was to be available through easement, not through dedication.
Correct, so it does not have to be dedicated to the town.
Correct.
Okay, so in other words, town plows would not have to go plow that road?
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page.
All right. No, I'm
Okay.
glad you're clarifying that.
Okay,
That would be all on our responsibility to maintain.
correct, and the easement would allow emergency vehicles only to access either way, either going north to south, south to north.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
And those easements, by the way, will also benefit the lower properties, which at this point have no formal easements. They're basically just kind of using pieces and parts of our property. Probably that makes for some levels of difficulty in transfers of those properties, and certainly in financing them. But one of the other benefits that this project brings is for all of the lower properties off Empire Boulevard, and those that will move and have access off Wilbur Tract Road will now have formal easements to do so. That will be filed.
Thank you.
Matt, again, this is not a formal hearing, and I know you haven't necessarily gone to all these details, but could you say a few words around the drainage piece and what you're looking at? And then obviously the ever-popular question about traffic and impact to Empire Boulevard and impact this project would have on Empire Boulevard and vice versa.
Yeah, so as far as stormwater goes, there is a low area, it's also a part of Jack's property in this vicinity, of which, when we went through the design for the townhomes, it essentially takes the drainage for Wilbur Tract Way as well as the townhome portion into that stormwater pond. When we did do the hydraulic calculations for that, it does include the potential of a future development here. So the pond has already been sized and sized to handle not only the townhome portion, but also the apartment portion. Again, all that's kind of off in the planning board, so I don't have the details for that.
Understand.
For you on that, but we do have the ability to do that. And then obviously you can see the wet areas in the picture. This is all delineated wetland off up here to the maybe to the east. So that's the intent for stormwater. As far as traffic goes, when we did come before this board previously for this project, we did have some requests about a potential traffic light. One of the things we did do is go to the DOT because it's a DOT road, and they basically said no way. So we really didn't get very far with that. And we do have a letter that we can provide to the town that does state that, dated back then, from back then.
And Matt, for the record, that's the State Department of Transportation.
Correct. Yep. So again, when I mentioned that we had done the South Point Co. project up the street, I think that was 300 plus units. What we did for remediation for that was to put the turn lane in. We have not been aware of any known incidents or issues. It seems as though things are working pretty well with that. So when we look at the impact, we're about a third or a quarter of what that development provided as far as traffic goes. And then when you have apartments like this, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio where you have one person and the peak hour is one car. It's about a 60% ratio. So if you have, let's say we've got 69 total homes between the townhomes and the apartments. It's about 60% of that would be impacting during the peak hour. So there's really not a lot of traffic that's going to be impacting Empire Boulevard. So it was one of those things where I know it's always a concern, and it's one of those things that we can easily address.
Okay. So I think at this point, and again, the purpose of a public information meeting is to hear from the public. And
Yeah,
so
certainly.
I think it was good to get some of the high-level details out, but now I think it's appropriate for those residents that have come in. I do have a couple letters to read into the record as well that I did receive today, but let's start, and I'll ask our clerk to please call those folks that have signed up to speak.
Okay, the first one, and I apologize in advance if I pronounce the last name incorrectly, Christopher Chauvin? Chauvin.
Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. My name is Christopher Chauvin. I live at 24 Old Westfall, which puts me right here. And it's a very interesting picture. I used to have a really beautiful view, not like this. You'd have to be about 200 feet in the air to get a view like this. And what amused me about this is because this is what it looks like in the summer, but there are leaves go away, and so you can see through all of this. And so this becomes much more transparent at other times of the year. All right, so this development here, I'd love to have had some say in it, but it's outside of Penfield, so at any rate, it has caused a lot of light pollution coming into my house.
Chris.
And I'm only concerned, I'm mentioning it only because I've already seen that, and any new development down here, any new lighting that goes in down here is also going to light up the whole hillside right above, right below where I live. And so it's really going to impact my view. And the idea that that this is not going to have a lot of traffic problems, it's almost impossible to make a left turn coming out of here. If you go down to the this nursery down here by your mulch, coming out of here on a Saturday and trying to make a left turn, it's dangerous. People don't go 55 here. People go 75 there. And I can always tell when the bar closes here because people come out, get on their motorcycles, and just open those things up. And it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's very loud. But that's what I live with. At any rate, the point is that having all of this development, and all of these people coming in here, you're going to have a lot more traffic than you can imagine. And it's going to be dangerous. I know you can't put a light in there, but I'm not happy with that. And I'm also, I think this is a change in density from what was originally proposed. And I don't know how you go about doing that. Is that something that has to be done with the zoning? Does the zoning have to be changed in order to
So you have
plan?
multiple zones here. So we've got the LaSalle's Landing that this board controls and manages and sets the criteria for, and then where the townhomes are zoned residential. I think when this originally came before the planning board, it was for the townhomes only. It was the units up above and not for the lower units. So that was the only thing that was previously discussed before the planning board.
Okay.
So this proposal, because it does fall within LaSalle's Landing, that's why it is coming before this board.
Okay. Well, I'm not happy with this plan. I think it's going to introduce a lot more people and density into an area where the infrastructure has not been improved enough to accommodate them. And it's really going to cut down on my sense of why I bought my property, you know, is the sense of isolation, the sense of seclusion at the end of this cul-de-sac. That's not going to be there anymore for me. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Andrew Poremba.
Thanks. Do you want to go first, Ralph? No, you can go. Okay. Hi, I'm Andrew Poremba. I'm at number 10 Old Westfall Drive, which is here, I think. And to explain the topography just a little bit and why I'm concerned about it is this is basically a ridge here through the backyards and then a very steep, almost like a valley, down into these developments. It's steeper here and it gets gradually less steep as you get up towards Ralph's property, which is Woodhaven. And for both these properties, but more especially for here, which I know isn't you guys, but that's why I came today, so sorry about that.
No, not a problem.
These houses look like they're very close to the base of the hill. I know my property line back here only goes down about halfway down the hill, maybe slightly more. And from what I saw, actually I was looking at your other sheet there. Is this still accurate for the townhouses? So especially up here and here, these developments are getting very close to the property line, so I was wondering if those were actually being dug into the hillside, or if they were, or what the buffer was between the bottom of the hill and the flat area. Does that make sense? Thanks a lot. So that was my major concern. And I have to support what Chris said. We have a winter view of the bay. Obviously, when there's leaves on the trees, we don't, but in a month or so, we have a pretty nice view down the whole valley. Not as nice as it used to be because of all this stuff, but it's still pretty good. And yeah, like he said, adding a whole bunch of light pollution there is, you know, we don't like it. You guys probably know that already. And but my main concern is the impact on the hillside. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you.
Ralph Milio?
Hi, Ralph.
How you doing there, Tony?
Good to see you. Nice haircut.
Good to see you. Oh, thank you. My name is Ralph Melio, and my wife Barbara and I reside at 43 Woodhaven Drive. Our home overlooks the proposed development. At present, the area is overgrown and not maintained. It has become an eyesore, especially for us. The town does not want the property for a park. Leaving it forever wild in its present form is not acceptable. A previous owner who proposed development did not have a good reputation in the community, and once his plan for development was denied, sold the property. Dr. Howitt is in the business of townhouse and apartment development, has established an excellent track record, and is known to hold and maintain his properties responsibly. I built our home in 1974. Old Westfall Drive did not exist at the time. There were neighbors who objected to development. Some felt that effluent from septic tanks would leach into Arundecoit Bay, while others felt that increased traffic in the neighborhood would be unsafe for our children. Today, Old Westfall Drive thrives, and we have the benefit of exclusive homes owned by some town residents who may be here this evening. I again was in the minority advocating for Mr. Pecora's dream to have his land developed. It was a long, hard road to travel, but today we have what properly planned development can achieve. We now have an opportunity to see a parcel of land 10 minutes from downtown, developed into a showcase of upscale townhouses overlooking Arundecoit Bay. In order to make this a viable investment, 36 apartments are required and are proposed to be built off Wilbur Track Road, exiting onto Empire Boulevard. As to Pecora Road, that runs along the side of our property, the town has an easement to provide emergency entrance and egress in the event of an emergency. Should this property remain forever wild, there is no way an emergency vehicle could ever make it up the hill to Woodhaven. At present, no emergency vehicles could ever get up the hill, no matter what the season of the year. The proposed development along Pecora Road would not require a pass-through onto Woodhaven Drive. There is a proposed crash gate just below our property line at the planned cul-de-sac. No traffic will proceed to Woodhaven unless a declared emergency. We have reached the time for a reasonable solution. Forever Wild is out of the question. The land has too much value considering its location and proximity to Arundecoit Bay. We have a proven developer who has patiently awaited an okay for development. We ask the town to give Dr. Howitt the green light to move forward. The time is now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Do we have anyone else that had signed up?
No.
Okay, at this time, certainly, Dr. Howell will give you an opportunity to comment. I'd also like to, in addition to the neighbors that are here and have made comments, I'd like to read two items into the record that the board received today. The first one is from John Babbitt at 16 Old Westfall Drive, who's lived in that area for 30-plus years. He states that a long time ago, Fina Pecora took him on a walk tour of his property. He pointed out several active springs in the wooded area behind my property. At one, someone had installed a pipe in the ground, and there was water flowing from it. My children used to play in that wooded area, and it was generally dry, other than the area right around the springs. Most recently, in the last couple of years, a relatively large pond has formed in the area, which I assumed is being fed by those springs. This indicates that there has either been a change in the water flow from the springs or the ability for the ground to absorb it. So my comments and questions to the board and to the potential developer are, as you're aware of the existence of the spring, are we aware of the existence of the springs and the pond behind the area? Number two, what investigative work has been done to determine what impact construction would have on the general area, and then what impact it would have on the water from those springs and where the water might end up. In addition, I share the same general concerns of existing local neighborhood that have been voiced before. A, traffic issues on Empire Boulevard. B, access from the southwest end of Pecora Road. C, what is the justification for changing any zoning in this area? And D, impact it will have on my property value. The second one is from Cindy McPhail, and she lives at, and bear with me here a minute, 2 Old Westfall Road. It's to the board. I echo the concerns expressed by my neighbors regarding the inconsistency between the types of properties in the area and those in the proposal, especially the difference between rental property and homes that are owned. I'm concerned about the rezoning conversation. Who has the right to rezone the property, and by what process are they able to do that? In a town of plan progress, it doesn't show confidence in the original plan if zoning is changed. I also share the concerns about the impact of the environment in such an environmentally sensitive area with homes perched on a delicate glacial moraine that has already begun to develop some sinkholes. We also share concerns about noise level and light pollution with the current environment. In addition, 2 issues I'd like to specifically address fall under the theme of safety and responsibility. First, the issue of Pecora Road. In the past, I've heard the argument that it would be a gated drive and would be only open for emergency access since it might be necessary to get to the rear of the proposed buildings. Empire Boulevard is a 4-lane highway. The Laurelton Fire Department is 1.13 miles away. It would take vehicles approximately 2 minutes to reach the proposed building site. Should the western portion of Empire Boulevard be blocked off, there is a substation on the corner of Plank and State Roads, which is approximately 3 miles away, with an estimated travel time of a little over 5 minutes. The nearest fire station to the Woodhaven Old Westfall Drive neighborhood is the Penfield station on Qualtrough Road. The station is over 2.21 miles away and would take at least 6 minutes to reach the current homes. It also would take longer to go down the steep slope of Pecora Road in order to reach the rear of the proposed building. I fail to understand why it would be desirable to dispatch emergency vehicles through nearly 1.5 miles of residential neighborhood with approximately 120 homes when there are two perfectly viable alternatives that are located on or near 4-lane road and that are much closer to the proposed building site. If there is a need to provide access to the rear of the proposed buildings for emergency purposes, then the burden of that responsibility for the safety of the residents should rest with the developer. Entranceways around the building should be built in such a way so that there is a loop. This would be necessary for car parking, trash pickup at the least. Pecora Road should never have been built. It is not reasonable to obtain for access for the back of the proposed building. My second point is that any development built in the property in question must exit and enter from Empire Boulevard. The changes in the proposed developments to the property in question would lead to the high-density population, which in turn will lead to a greater number of people trying to enter traffic. Back in 2009, Empire Boulevard was defined as high-traffic area and was predicted to become traveled as it became a, quote, priority congestion corridor. The Corridor 404 study reports about segment 2, and in parentheses, the section of 404 which is developed would be built. Noted issues identified for this segment of the town of Irondequoit included an excessive speed of traffic, steep grades, and poor access to the Bayside development. Nevertheless, row upon row of apartments have been built on the north side of the road. Why are more being proposed? Clearly, an increase in the number of cars, delivery, school buses for hundreds of people attempting to enter traffic from a dead stop would also lead to an increase in the number of accidents. I know that it's been very difficult for businesses like Agway to allow people to turn left westbound onto Empire Boulevard. People who live in the apartments and who would try to leave Basil's restaurant have a difficult time turning left or eastbound. I've heard the claim that there would be a little chance of children living in the proposed development and therefore few school buses, but all it takes is one. You must consider that it would be natural that small families looking to downsize the size of their homes, and single parents would have disregard for the safety of their children. While the town could claim that Empire Boulevard is a state road and thus state responsibility, it is our responsibility as town members to make choices that will address the safety of all of our residents and not inherently endanger lives. I strongly urge that the proposed high-density development be rejected, and that's Cindy McPhail at 2 Old Westfall Road. Those documents from both Cindy McPhail and from John Babbitt will be made available to the developer. Okay, Dr. Howlett, I think you wanted to make some comments, sir.
I'm going to be pointing to Old Westfall Road, which runs here. This is an actual satellite view of the area. This piece in dark green represents 2.5 acres that is contiguous via easement from the circle at Old Westfall Road. And I wanted those on Old Westfall Road to keep in mind that that area would not be available any longer for development with our development, insofar as those 2.5 acres are going to be gifted to the Monroe County Parks Department. And the easement to that runs down Old Westfall Road and right along my finger here to make this property contiguous in access to present Old Westfall Road. And that easement would be extinguished and that property donated to the County Parks Department, who has agreed to accept that.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Okay, Board, I will ask, is there any additional questions that you have based on some input that we've received, both from those in the public as well as a couple of emails that we've received? I would ask, is there anyone in the audience that would like to make any additional or further comments? I'll take those that have not spoken first, and those that have, give them a second opportunity if they so desire. Yes, ma'am, please.
Good evening. My name is Noreen Connolly, and I live at 6 Old Westfall Drive. Just a couple of comments about what I'm seeing tonight, in part in comparison to earlier plans. The density, as people have mentioned, has increased. I find that concerning, both for light and sound issues, as Chris Chauvin mentioned. Sound carries up the hill, and light carries up the hill. When the bar is below us, somebody had a band outside in the summer kind of late at night, you could hear it. The motorcycles, he mentioned, any lights down there really comes up. Sound and noise both comes up the hill in almost a ridiculous way. So that's something that I really do think this is going to impact us significantly in terms of, again, in the summer, maybe not so badly, except that in the summer we're outside. In the winter, you lose the leaves. And if someone said something about the development being in the valley, well, for me, my view is the valley. I love it as much in the winter, if not more so. When the leaves are gone, I can see the snow, and it's a big part of why I moved to that neighborhood. And if I look out and there's roofs below me, then I've lost a huge part of my view. Also, along with that, or that particular point, there was some conversation about the development being built into the hill, which suggests to me that this part, as was mentioned, this becomes more and more shallow. My house is right about here. As this gets more and more shallow, if those are built into the hill, I have a feeling I'm not going to just be seeing roofs. I think I'm going to start looking in someone's window, or not far. It's not going to be very hidden if those are being built into the hill as that grade changes. So, I mean, I was picturing them down below, and I could look over it, and now I'm not seeing the same picture. Now I'm seeing things a lot closer to my backyard and below my backyard and out my windows. So that's a very big change, and that is, that is a big difference to me, to have something that's kind of below, and yes, maybe I could look over, above them, ignore them, but not if they're kind of hitting my eye line, my eyesight, right, if their roof line or below it. I'm concerned now about where that's going to be. And just one other thing, again, with the view, it may be wild, but that's what they call nature, and nature is beautiful, and there are a lot of animals live back there, and we're going to be changing the ecology of the area. The birds, the deer, there's a lot of foxes, there are even coyotes, whether we like them or not, they're back there and they're part of the environment, so that's going to be a huge change. Those animals are going to go somewhere. They have to go somewhere else. So again, something people maybe haven't thought about, that you're changing something that's been that way for a very, very long time, that's called nature. So that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Noreen. Thank you. Any other first-time speakers? Yes, Dr. Howlett, and then we'll come here, and then Mr. Costello.
Thank you.
So,
Just to correct an error, the design does not, and the developer does not intend to build into the hillside.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Howlett. Yes, sir.
I'm Keith McPhail. I live on 2 Old Westfall Drive. We have trouble finding ourselves on this map, don't we? And thanks for putting this up. I actually like this depiction better. I'm right there, Ralph is right there, Noreen's there, Annie's there. So I mistook this original meeting and the purpose of it, so I apologize for this question. May I ask a question about this?
We're really here to talk about the lower piece.
Yep.
And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to recognize Mr. Costello who promises me he's going to shed some light.
Hi, Jim.
Good. There have been some misconceptions tonight, and I wasn't going to get up and speak, but I do want to talk a little bit about things, because I'm starting to get a feeling that people aren't fully understanding what the process is for this application. This part here right now, these 33 units, that public hearing was held over a year ago. It's been through the approval process, but it's been tabled pending some input that the board was asking from the applicants regarding some aesthetic visuals for the new buildings that were going to be built. So that part of it is currently in the approval process. As that happened, we started to think, we haven't heard from Dr. Howitt in a while. I wonder why we haven't gotten the information that we were looking for the planning board, because they were getting ready to determine what they were going to do with the application if he was going to move forward. So Dr. Howitt came to us and said, we are still in the process of getting this 33 units developed, but we've run into a snag because, as Matt said earlier, this portion of the property is going to be very costly to improve. And I know that the people, I talked to Mr. Sheff this morning, who's very interested in getting this area upgraded because it's very difficult to get out on Empire Boulevard the way it is now. So as a result, he has come in and asked for these units to be constructed. As Mr. LaFountain noted, there is a portion of the property, a small portion over by where the second building is, that would have to be rezoned to LaSalle's Landing, which is what this is now. It's currently zoned R120. There's also the old building that Mr. Pecora owned that was his trucking company that is also zoned residential, which has sat in a state of disrepair for several years now because the owners of the property haven't been able to put any businesses in there because of its zoning. So the intent would be to rezone that portion of the property if the application moved forward, to get that into the zoning so that it could be used as a permitted activity within the LaSalle's Landing district. So that's kind of where we are with this as it relates to the 33 units. Those are still in the approval process.
With the planning,
And there would have to be a small area, I'm sorry?
with the planning board.
That's right. And there is a small portion that would have to be rezoned. Not all the property for the apartments would have to be rezoned. I think about half of the area where the second apartment is going towards the hill, that's the area that would have to be rezoned. Does that help? Okay.
All right, so Keith, you're back on.
I just really want a clarification whether these are intended for owned or rental. That's what you and I talked about before, right? So the reason I asked was because the conversation about an association, I had never heard of an owners association in a rental situation, right? So they're in conflict. All right, great. The big question.
So I just want to, so for the record, I just want to make sure that it's clear. So your question was for rent or for ownership, and I want the record to reflect that Dr. Howitt indicated it is for rent.
Yes,
Okay,
and he's
thank
been
you.
clear about that for quite a while.
All right.
So my real question was, I wanted to go back to the runoff because there has been we've had a very wet year, and I know this has been all clogged up for a long time. Fish used to actually go up there. And it's freed up a bit because of the transition of so much water through it. And in this road here for Wilbur Track, in some sections, there's literally only about 20 or 30 feet before the swamp starts. Right. And so the concern I just want to express is that I made an assumption that the state DOE was treating this as one block. Maybe they're not. But the runoff of the addition of the asphalt or other pad-like surfaces would, it drives a big concern in my head because this has been relatively abused in the past by Mr. Pecora, and that was a long time ago. And rains like we've been experiencing would throw a lot of water into here, which isn't necessarily, let's call it clean, right? So do you know if this is being treated as one whole block by the state DOE?
It is not subdivided.
Is it subdivided? Okay. And so we're meeting guidelines, I'm assuming, from the state for the runoff for both of these parcels?
Correct, yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yes.
That was it. Thanks very much.
Absolutely, Keith, thanks. Thanks for coming in. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Mr. Horowitz?
When Matt was talking, he said the homeowner would own a lot.
And now we're talking rentals, so I'm...
Yeah, I apologize, and I want to clarify.
Clarification.
Yeah, I apologize, I want to clarify that. I was mistaken, they are for rent, not for ownership. That was a mistake on my part, I apologize.
So homeowners association...
There wouldn't be a need for a homeowners, correct. There would not be a need for a homeowners association. It would be a maintenance company that was hired or someone that Jack has used in the past.
Sure. Right, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address this matter? First-time speakers, second-time speakers, third-time speakers? Okay. Board, any additional questions or comments at this time? No. Okay. Matt, Dr. Howitt, any additional comments that you would like to enter into the record that you haven't already put in the record that you'd like to be part of the record?
Thank you to the board for this meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Howitt. And then, Mr. Costello, I'll recognize you one more time. Is there anything additional, and thank you for that clarification explanation, is there anything additional that you would like to add to the record that you believe is pertinent to this application? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Supervisor. The one thing I want to bring to everybody's attention, which has been a real problem over the last several years, is the perception of the emergency access point. That is being recommended by the town staff to the boards, only because it has nothing to do with emergency access in terms of fire trucks going up the hill or coming down the hill. It has to do with the fact that over the last few years, our DPW department has had a real problem with trees falling on Old Westfall Road, on Parkview Drive, on Old Browncroft. We had a situation on 5 Mile Line Road last year where we had to close the road for 2.5 days because we couldn't get vehicles up and down it. Luckily, there were other access points to get around it. We're very concerned, for your sake, particularly on Parkview, that if a tree falls and we can't get you out of there during an emergency situation, you're going to be stuck there for a day or two, which you're not going to want to do, obviously, and we don't want you to be in that position. The intent is to be able to open up that gate to take you down to Empire Boulevard and get you out of that neighborhood so that you've got access to get in and out of that area for food or hospital needs or whatever the case may be. It really has nothing to do with the fire departments coming to your site. They'll get there no matter what has to happen. But it's getting you in and out safely. That was the issue. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Costello. All right, seeing no further questions from the audience or the board, and we've put the finishing touches, at least for the discussion with Mr. Costello and the developer. I'll declare this public information meeting closed. Again, as we did with our 2 formal public hearings, the next earliest opportunity the board will discuss this will be next Wednesday, and I would just ask that you keep track of the agenda or stay in contact with Mr. Costello as to whether it's going to be on the agenda or not. Okay, great. Thank you very much. We'll continue on with the rest of our agenda. Those of you that have nothing to do and want to enjoy seeing local government in action, please feel free to stay. If you want to catch the rest of the Yankee game, we understand that as well. All right, we will move on to our communications and our announcements, and I'll start with our town clerk, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Upcoming fall event. Penfield residents in need of a new or updated passport are invited to attend Passport Night in Penfield on Tuesday, October 17th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Penfield Town Hall. This service comes to Penfield through the partnership of Monroe County Clerk's Office in the town of Penfield. Please call 340-8627 for details or to sign up in advance. Also, a notice from our Receiver of Taxes office. The 2017 and 2018 school tax bills were mailed out last week to everyone. If someone does not receive their bill by Friday, September 8th, please contact the tax receiver at 340-8625.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Quinn.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good evening, everyone. This week, the school year is starting today, and many of our young residents are waiting at bus stops or crossing the roadways. 1/3 of current drivers, according to AAA, do not stop for school buses when the red flashing lights are activated. New York State law states that when a stopped school bus flashes its red lights, traffic approaching from either direction, even in front of a school or in a school parking lot, must stop before reaching the bus. Law enforcement is cracking down on drivers who are ignoring the law and putting our children and grandchildren in danger. Please take extra care while driving for yourself and everyone else. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Messler.
I have one announcement this evening. On Saturday, September 16th, from 7:45 a.m. to 1 p.m., the towns of Penfield and Webster are again partnering with Monroe County to host a household hazardous waste drop-off. This year's event will be held at the Webster Highway Garage, 1005 Picture Parkway. This is an appointment service only, and you can make your appointment at monroecounty.gov/HHW or by calling Penfield DPW at 340-8710 before Friday, September 15 at 3 p.m. And that's all I have for this evening.
Great. I have just one brief announcement. It's more of a reminder. Normally, this board holds 2 legislative sessions each month, the first and the third Wednesday. The third Wednesday this month is a holiday, is a Jewish holiday, the 20th. So no meeting was scheduled at the beginning of the year, and so it's just a reminder that the next legislative session will be October 4th. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The town's annual Taste in the Blues event will be held Saturday, September 16th at the Penfield Amphitheater, Veterans Memorial Park here at the Town Hall campus. This event will be held from noon to 4 p.m., which includes free chili judging contest, Genesee Brew House beer samplings, and a music performance on the Kiwanis stage by Steve Grills and the Roadmasters. For details for this annual event, please go to penfieldrec.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Cole.
Yes. This weekend, town historian Kathy Knauer and the local history room will be holding 2 history walks in Penfield. On Friday, September 8th, come to Oakwood Cemetery at 6:30 p.m. to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the United States entry to World War I. Learn more about the young men from the town of Penfield who enlisted in the conflict and are buried in Oakwood Cemetery. The walk will begin at the flagpole located at the west end of the cemetery. Oakwood Cemetery is located at the corner of Whalen and Baird Road. The next morning, Saturday, September 9th, beginning at 9 a.m., Kathy Knauer will join the Penfield Trails Committee for a hike in Channing H. Philbrick Park to discuss the life and accomplishments of town founder Daniel Penfield. Participants should meet at the pavilion in the lower section of the park. Both events are free to the public, and more details are available by calling the Recreation Department at 340-8655. And my other announcement is that my next community chat will be held on Tuesday, September 19th, from 5:30 to 7 in the new book area at the Penfield Library.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item on our agenda is public participation. There are 2 opportunities at this time, and again, at the end of the meeting. You can do that one of 3 ways. If you're here in the audience, you can address the board by coming to the podium. You can call in at 340-8771, or you can log on at penfield.org. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board? Ed Lindskog. 40 Willow Pond Way.
Ed Lindskog, 40 Willow Pond Way. Due to a change in ownership at Willow Pond, which occurred the 1st of August, our cable system was interrupted somehow. The explanation I got from the new owners is that the cable system they provide should be adequate. I lost my permanent cable system, and I had fluctuating messages. I couldn't get online a lot of times, so I don't really know what happened. I haven't investigated anything more with the town. Don't we franchise the cable company in this?
We do.
So
All towns have franchise agreements. Most of the franchise agreements have long since expired, and negotiations continue to be slow and complicated especially when they change from one vendor or ownership to another.
Okay, so is there a chance that the town could look into what's happening at Legacy to see what's going on?
Certainly we can make a call over there. I mean, that really is something that is between the ownership of Legacy, Watermark now, and Spectrum. But certainly, actually, Chris Mueller, who is the government relations person for Spectrum and Charter Communications, he and I have been playing telephone tag on another issue. I will let him know that you were in asking about that and throw that ball in his court to follow up.
Several of us had problems with service since the new owner took, and Spectrum was in, supposedly fixed the problem, but still there's spotty reception throughout some of the building for whatever reason. It didn't happen when Mark IV had their service.
Got it.
Would appreciate anything.
Hopefully somebody's still paying the bill.
I know, we're still paying. We were told that we have cable service. Well, I have a computer expert in my family, so he adjusted my system, so I'm getting better reception now. But he took me off of their system.
Got it. All right, I will, like I say, Chris Mueller and I have been playing telephone tag on a couple of items, and I will certainly pass that on, that Willow Pond under Watermark is having some different reception than what they did when it was under Mark IV.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And also, the cabling system was installed in 2000, and many upgrades have occurred since then, and maybe it's time for that building to be upgraded, too.
Maybe that's the case, yes.
Yeah. The other issue is one we discussed last night at the Trails Committee meeting with Honey Creek Trail.
Yes.
And I know you indicated that you were going to do something with the Sheriff's Department.
Zone A.
May I recommend that maybe a neighborhood watch for that area be set up so that we could address some of Jenny's problems?
Absolutely.
Doesn't seem to be enough foot traffic or enough people around that time of the day to spoil what the kids are doing to that area. I did drive down Mott's Lane, and the kiosk is all defaced, and you know, that sat there for years without problems, and I know she's having problems on private property, which hopefully we can get all that stuff straightened out.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have some young residents that have elected to do some damage to that area. So I did reach out to Lou Tomasetti, who is kind of pinch hitting until the new captain for the A zone comes in sometime the end of September or early October, to make them aware of a couple of situations. That was one of the ones that we had discussed at Trails Committee yesterday.
Maybe the town could mark the boundary of private property where the trail easement stops with a pole or something to indicate where private property is. That's just a suggestion. I know that no trespassing signs are supposed to be there, but they get torn down and discarded. So
Right.
seems that something needs to be done in that area.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Yeah.
Thank you. Seeing no other public participation at this point, we'll move on to additions, deletions to the agenda. Seeing none, we do have the minutes of August 2nd before us, and would entertain a motion of those minutes.
I move that the minutes of August 2nd be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Our next item is petitions. Has the board, town clerk, or town attorney received any petitions since our last meeting? Seeing none, we'll move on to resolution by function, starting with law and finance, please.
Ratification of the purchase of a 2017 wide format printer.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the town of Penfield desires to purchase a 2017 OCE format printer, model number 500 CW, for approximately $25,000 from Underwood Office Technologies per New York State contract pricing. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Penfield hereby ratifies the supervisor's actions in signing a purchase agreement with Underwood Office Technology for the purchase of the printer for the sum of $25,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for town supervisor to sign a professional service contract with Mary Jo Corona of LeClaire Corona, Vahey Cole LLP as counsel to represent the town in review of tax assessment under Article 7 of the Real Property Tax Law.
Moved.
Second.
Be it resolved that Mary Jo Corona is authorized to prepare all necessary documents needed to defend the town in its tax cases for the property located at 1855 Mile Line Road. Be it further resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to sign a contract with Mary Jo Corona of LeClaire Corona Vehicle LLP for professional services. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion. See no discussion. Roll call vote.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Setting a public hearing on the 2018 preliminary and special districts budget.
Moved.
Second.
Be it resolved that public hearings on the proposed Town of Penfield's 2017 preliminary budget and the 2018 special districts budget be held on Wednesday, October 4th, 2017 at 7 p.m. at the Penfield Town Hall. Be it further resolved that legal notice shall also list a summary of the 2018 budget as required by law and contain a statement that a copy of the preliminary budget is available at the office of the town clerk here at 3100 Atlantic Avenue, whereby any interested persons may inspect during business hours on or after September 7th, 2017. A copy of the 2018 preliminary budget is also available at the Public Library at 1985 Baird Road and is online at penfield.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moore, I would just ask, I just noted in that first sentence that it indicates the 2017 preliminary budget and the 2018 special district. I might ask if you would consider amending the resolution to change 2017 to 2018 preliminary budget.
Absolutely. So I will offer an amendment to change that first sentence of the resolution, Town of Penfield 2018 preliminary budget.
And I'll second that.
Okay. So that amendment has been moved and seconded, and I'll ask for that to be voted on before we get to the main resolution. So I'll ask for a roll call vote of the amendment.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Great, thank you. And to the main motion, any discussion on the resolution itself? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote of that main motion.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you very much.
Authorization to attend the 2017 New York State Assessors Seminar on Assessment Administration.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas it's in the best interest of the town of Penfield to provide for adequate educational opportunities for employees to maintain recertification requirements and to keep abreast of current methods of law. Now be it resolved that Ann Buck, Assessor, is hereby authorized to attend the New York Assessors Seminar on Assessment Administration being held in Lake Placid, New York on the week of October 1st through the 4th, 2017, at a cost not to exceed $1,400. Funds for the seminar will be budgeted in the 2017 Office of the Assessor's budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Granting a conditional use permit to allow the conversion of a pre-existing non-conforming industrial building to a climate-controlled storage facility at 1385 Empire Boulevard.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas an application has been received by the Penfield Town Board for the issuance of a conditional use permit pursuant to Chapter 250-7-13-C of the code to consider allowing for the conversion of a pre-existing non-conforming industrial building to a climate-controlled storage facility at 1385 Empire Boulevard in the LaSalle Landing Development District. Now therefore be it resolved that the applicant's request for a conditional use permit to allow for the conversion of the pre-existing non-conforming building is hereby granted following granted subject to the following conditions. For the record, Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to note there's 8 conditions. We've seen these conditions before in other resolutions that come before this board pertaining to the LaSalle Landing zoning district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Further discussion? No. Seeing no discussion, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Advertising for bids for the Department of Public Works Greenwood Park Playground Equipment Purchase and Installation.
So moved.
Second.
Be it resolved that the Director of Public Works is authorized to advertise the manner prescribed by law for sealed proposals to furnish the town of Penfield Department of Public Works with the following: Greenwood Park Playground Equipment Purchase and Installation. Be it further resolved that the Greenwood Park playground equipment covered by such proposals shall be in accordance with the specifications prepared by the Director of Public Works. Sealed proposals are to be received in the office of the town clerk until September 22nd, 2017, at 11 a.m. local time, and there and then to be open and read publicly, bound by the town clerk. Funds for this project are contained in the 2017 budget.
Thank you. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Rejecting bids received and re-advertising for new sealed bids for the Recreation Department boxed turf field at Rothfuss Park.
So moved.
Second.
The original advertisement for bids resulted in no properly sealed bids submitted per the bid specifications. Therefore, the bid received is rejected. It is the desire for the town to rebid this project. Therefore, the Recreation Director is authorized to re-advertise in the manner prescribed by law for sealed proposals to furnish the town of Penfield Department of Recreation with the following: 1 box turf field. And be it further resolved, the box turf field presented by such proposals be in accordance with the specifications prepared by the Recreation Director. The Recreation Director sends the notice for sealed bids to interested vendors and publicly advertise for the request. Therefore, be it resolved that sealed proposals are to be received in the office of the town clerk until September 18th, 2017, at 11 a.m. local time, and there and then be opened and read publicly by the town clerk.
Thank you. Discussion. This is a reminder, the monies for this field was sponsored by a grant through Senator Funke's office.
Yes.
And we're going to be going through, we did receive a quote for this, but it did not meet the sealed requirements for bids, so hence why rejection and rebid. All right, seeing no further discussion, ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign recreation contracts.
So moved.
Second.
This authorizes the town supervisor to sign 8 recreation contracts, and they're all dealing with the programs that are upcoming this fall that are listed in your recreation brochure.
Great, thank you. Discussion. Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes.
This brings us to old business. Is there any old business to come before the board this evening? Seeing none, is there any new business to come before the board this evening? Again, seeing none, this brings us to our second public participation. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on any matter? Again, seeing none, the next legislative session of this board will be October 4th. That will also include a public hearing for the 2018 budget, 2018 special districts budget as well. There being no further business to come before the September 6th, 2017 legislative session of the town board. This board stands adjourned at 9:15 p.m. Thank you for everyone that participated. Thank you to Penfield TV.